Hi everyone, in this video we are going to see how to find the equation of a circle that passes through the origin and has the center on the x-axis. Let's suppose we have a circle like this where the center is on x-axis, and let's assume the coordinates of the center are h, k. Obviously k will be equal to 0 because the center is on the x-axis, so the y coordinate will obviously be 0. But for now let's denote it as h, k. Now if we are given the center of a circle, then we know that we are talking about a very specific circle. Now, if we are given the radius of a circle and we are told that the circle passes through the origin and has its center on the x-axis, then is this the only possibility? Could there be another possibility? Yes, there is in fact another possibility. The circle could be on the left hand side of the origin also, but the circle might look like this, that its center could be on the negative x-axis and still the circle could have the same radius and pass through the origin. Now in this case, if you think about the radius of the circle, it will be actually equal to the absolute value of h, because h could be a positive or negative value depending on the location of the circle. So I am denoting r as absolute value of h. And from here we can say that h will be equal to plus or minus r, and obviously k will be equal to 0 because the center is on the x-axis. So the y coordinate of the center will be 0. And from here we can say r squared will be equal to h squared. Now we are going to look at the two different scenarios. Let's look at the first scenario where we have been given the coordinates of the center. Let's suppose we have been told that the center of the circle is located at h, 0, and from here we have to find out the equation of the circle. Well, we can begin with the fundamental equation of circle, which is x minus h whole squared plus y minus k whole squared is equal to r squared. And then if we plug in the values of h and k, we are going to get the equation like this: x minus h whole squared plus y minus 0 whole squared is equal to h squared. And if I slightly modify this, let me remove that minus 0 thing there. So we can write the equation like this: x minus h whole squared plus y squared is equal to h squared. And that will be the equation of this circle. In this case, please understand that we have been given the location of the center. That means we are talking about one specific circle. We are not talking about multiple circles here, because we cannot draw multiple circles having the same center with the same radius. So in this case, our assumption is that the radius is numerically equal to the value of h, and we are talking about just one specific circle. So there will be just one equation, and this is that equation. Now let's talk about the second case. In the second case, let's suppose we have been given the radius of the circle and we have been told that the circle passes through the origin and has its center on the x-axis. Then in fact we are talking about two possibilities. The circle could be on the right hand side of the origin. Circle can also be on the left hand side of the origin. So in this case we have to come up with two equations essentially. So let's see how to derive the equations. If we begin with the fundamental equation of circle, we can say the equation would be x minus h whole squared plus y minus k whole squared is equal to r squared. But in this case, h is equal to plus or minus r and k is equal to 0. So if we use the value of h and k, then our equation is going to look like this: x plus or minus r whole squared plus y minus 0 whole squared is equal to r squared. And let me simplify that y minus 0 whole squared as simply y squared. Then our equation is going to look like this: x plus or minus r whole squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. And in this case we will get two equations. One equation will be with x plus r whole squared and the second equation will be with x minus r whole squared. So that is the combined form of the two possible equations. Now let's take a look at the first equation, which is x minus h whole squared plus y squared is equal to h squared. If we remove the parenthesis, we can write it as x squared minus 2hx plus h squared plus y squared is equal to h squared, and the positive h squared on both sides will cancel out each other. So finally we are going to be left with something like this: x squared plus y squared minus 2hx is equal to 0. And if we compare that with the general form of equation of circle, which is like x squared plus y squared plus 2gx plus 2fy plus c equals 0, then you can clearly see that h will be equal to negative g and k will be equal to negative f, which is equal to 0. In fact, there is no y term here, so f is obviously equal to 0, and there is also no constant term. That means c is also equal to 0. Now when c is equal to 0, it clearly indicates that the circle passes through the origin and the center lies on one of the axes. It could be x-axis or y-axis. That again depends on the value of g and f. If G is not equal to 0 but F is equal to 0, then obviously the center lies on the x-axis. And if G is equal to 0 and F is not equal to 0, then the center would lie on the y-axis. But in any case, constant term being 0 indicates that the circle passes through the origin. Next, we are going to take a couple of examples. Here I have the first example that says find the equation of the circle that passes through the origin and has its center at 5, 0. The center has been provided as 5, 0. That means the circle is on the right hand side of the origin. So in this case, we are going to use the first equation that we saw up above. X minus h whole squared plus y squared is equal to h squared, and here the value of h has been provided as 5. So if we plug in the value of h, then we can write it as x minus 5 whole squared plus y squared is equal to 5 squared, and that is again x minus 5 whole squared plus y squared is equal to 25. And now if we expand the x minus 5 whole squared, we are going to get something like this: x squared minus 10x plus 25 plus y squared is equal to 25, and then the positive 25 on both sides will cancel out each other, so we are going to be left with x squared plus y squared minus 10x is equal to 0. And that is the answer of this question. The equation of this circle would be x squared plus y squared minus 10x is equal to 0. And because in this case we have been provided with the location of the center, we are talking about one specific circle, so there will be only one equation as the answer, and that is that equation. Next, let's take a look at a second example. The second example says find the equations of the circles whose radius is 4 unit, have center on x-axis and pass through the origin. So here we are talking about multiple circles, and clearly there will be two possibilities. As you have seen earlier in this video, we have been provided with the radius and the center lies on x-axis, and there are actually two possibilities. The center could be on the right hand side of the origin, the center could be on the left hand side of the origin also. So in this case we are going to use the second equation. Here the radius is equal to 4 and h is equal to plus or minus r, which is equal to plus or minus 4. As you have seen up above, the equation of the two circles can be written as x plus or minus r whole squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. And if we plug in the value of r, the equation will look like x plus or minus 4 whole squared plus y squared is equal to 4 squared. And if we expand it, we can write it as x squared plus or minus 8x plus 16 plus y squared is equal to 16. And here the positive 16 on both sides will cancel out each other, and we are going to be left with something like this: x squared plus y squared plus or minus 8x is equal to 0. That is the combined form of the two equations that we are trying to derive here, because in this case there are two possibilities, right? And if we write them separately, the two equations would look like this: x squared plus y squared plus 8x equals 0, and x squared plus y squared minus 8x equals 0. You see, in the two equations, the only difference is the sign of the x term there. In the first equation I am using plus 8x, in the second equation we are using minus 8x. So those are the two possible equations for the circles whose radius would be 4 unit and center lies on x-axis and the circles pass through the origin. I hope everything made sense. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.